the outline of today's session, first session, is also still from 12 to 2, and we are going to recap what we said yesterday, and then there will be some space for discussion if you have come up with questions from yesterday or you want to discuss because something not clear. We can discuss this again. And then we have an exercise, a little exercise, where we will be critiquing proposals, parts of proposals, not all proposals, but we will be looking at like aims and objectives from a proposal, and in the light of what we talked about yesterday, we will see if there something wrong, is it okay, what fits, what does not fit, and so on. And then we will talk about very briefly about the Arabic summary that is required by the postgraduates, but it's an summary in Arabic because we're writing our proposals in a foreign language. فمش حاجة صعبة مش معقدة. Once we already wrote our proposal in English, then the Arabic is not going to be that big of a problem. A few comments on that. The second session, which starts from 2:30 and ends 5:30, hopefully a bit earlier. We will talk about general considerations about research and proposal writing in general, emotional, ethical, academic, what's around the process, what we should maybe, what would be problematic around the proposal writing. Again, at the end, if you have time, if we have time, we want to ask some questions, we can also receive questions and discuss it. Okay, so to recap, first before we start today, I wanted to say something that has been on my mind for some time, ever since we started preparing this workshop, and I was discussing it with him in the morning, and I told him that I want to talk about that, and it's the fact that during the course of preparing this, I was preoccupied with Dr. Marrakesh, our lead Dr. Marrakesh. I don't know if you have all seen Dr. Marrakesh, you have interacted with Dr. Marrakesh, but basically almost everything I know about proposal writing, I got from Marrakesh, and a lot of things that I know about research, I got from Marrakesh. Marrakesh left us suddenly and early and unexpectedly, but I'm always happy to remember that she has left this kind of legacy that we are continuing. She never gave me a workshop, like this, but every time I met her, there was a workshop of sorts. She would really give me a lot of, apart from support, moral and academic, but a lot of her expertise in the area of academic research. So I just thought that in this workshop I needed to say that and mention how influential Dr. Malek was, and not just in my case, but I think with a lot of us. And I don't know if
I told Randa before the workshop that I have nothing to say because I don't think anything can be said to really express how one feels about Dr. Malek. But I think one of the biggest contributions, she was the only person I know in this department who constantly read other people's work. And for absolutely no reason. She was not supervising them. She was not a referee of the article. She was keen and interested. And she wanted to see what other people did. And she always had something positive to say, and also had a lot of edifying things to tell me. She always had top of her mind. She said, you should read this book. And I read this article that is very similar. And I think we owe her and people like her in the department a lot. And we should, if we want to preserve that legacy, that's precisely the spirit we should encourage. Read each other's work. Teach each other.
Right. So we get back to the are going to look at our elements. I'm not sure you have written down everything, but we did the abstract. I think it was Nuran who asked about the technical terms. Yeah. So do you think you got some kind of satisfactory answer to that? Okay. So this would be part of the Arabic summary. So you will, at that time, you will have to explain your terms in Arabic. You will write the term in English, characterization in English, and then the term in Arabic, tashkhis or whatever, and then explain it or define it in Arabic for the reader who's reading Arabic. Then we have the list goes on, and the hypotheses we have agreed, no hypotheses, and then this is the end of the list. So before we start the discussion, I want to remind you of a few points. Number one is that these elements overlap. Okay? And it's okay to think that Allah, is this aim or is this objective? But saying is it better to use it in the research question, whether the aim, whether أحطها في introduction? So these kind of questions come up a lot, and it's keeping in mind basically what this part is about. So if I feel it's too general, then the final aims are general, the research questions are more specific. So I measure and I evaluate, is it specific or is it general? Does it fit here better than here? So this is how I go about the process of avoiding the overlapping. Another thing is that all the elements are there in any kind of proposal. You really need to talk about your methodology and the scope of your research, but it's pointed out in points for you to be aware of. But later on, even when you do research, when you write papers and maybe prepare presentations for conferences, you will pretty much need all these elements. Okay? Maybe not, some of them not as detailed as they are in the proposal, but you actually need to say which corpus you are dealing with, what words you have chosen, and why, or whatever. Why did I choose this group of students? Why did I choose to analyze this verb and not that verb? So all these aspects are there in any kind of research, whether proposal or not. It's just here that they are put in a slightly subjective way because of here there are requirements and very strict requirements. But for any researcher, these are needed. Last thing I want to say is that please check regularly for changes and updates, because this format changes a lot. And what we tell you about today might slightly change in the future. So before you submit your proposal or before you start writing your proposal, check for the latest. That's all I hope.
No, I just wanted to, on that matter of clear-cut boundaries, I mean, we disagree. I mean, everybody disagrees. In the same room, I mean, we are in the room where proposals are discussed most of the time. I mean, in this very room, before it comes in, sometimes two people, two members of staff will discuss and will not agree. I mean, does it fit? Just remember that it's not mathematical. It's not very, very clear. Of course, some things are very obvious. You cannot put the questions and say, this is my objective. You cannot have literature review and say, this is my aim. I mean, but aim and objective, what is important, what I want to do, these things overlap. And as you know, I mean, with literature people, we work with words. It's how you present what you want to do. You know? I can take the same material and present it as my aim, or as the importance of my research. And it can be the same, because it's the same content. So don't be afraid very much of, I mean, you want to adhere to the categories and to that division, to this format, but also in this activity.
It's not really deadly to, I mean, sometimes it is to talk about, for example, methodology in which chapterization or whatever, but some of the overlapping is not deadly actually, as long as you justify and as long as the rest of your proposal sounds convincing and and reads as well organized. So some voting here and there will not really be final based on exactly.
Just like the briefing and the aims and objectives. Consumer chapter has to list the cases.
So maybe, yes, of course, but maybe it would help to tell us why and what problems are you encountering with them. So,
Well, I mean, I have to start writing. See, I haven't started writing yet. But yesterday, I understood when you gave the example. When you gave the example, it's like my aim is to boost culture. My aim is to. I can't remember what you said. I understand when I got back home, I didn't forget it was in this sense.
Well, very, very briefly, their aims and objectives are the flip side of the importance of your research. I mean, you start with explaining why your research is important, what is new about it, what you're contributing to it. And then, I mean, aims and objectives are difficult because you know them, they are there throughout your research, they're precisely why you want to work on this specific study or research or thesis or project. But you haven't also ever voiced them to yourself. So this is what you're doing. It's the extract of your thesis. What exactly do I want to do here? Of course, not exactly, because as we said, this is tentative, this develops, this changes, this gets reformulated as you work on the research itself. But approaching this topic, things fall apart and seasonal migration to the north as post-colonial county discourse, example of post-colonial county discourse. It's important, that is the importance, because we said two texts that have not been done before. I'm looking at the sub-Saharan text and the Sudanese Arabic text. For this and that reason, this is new. When I look at these, want to do the following. This is your aim, your objective. What do you want to compare? What do you want to study? What issues do you want to explore? It differs from one piece of research to another.
together with research questions. Because aims, maybe what really confuses us about aims is that we think aims are too many. They are, I have many aims. No, I don't have many aims. I have many research questions. But I actually don't have many aims. I could have two aims. Or I could have one aim. It's that comparative study of Gaza, or maybe two other subsidiary aims. But aims are not so many. Whatever, because research questions are aims, but they are specific and they are formulated as questions. So from this big aim, I come out with minor or subsidiary aims that I turn into questions. So for example, as Dr. Walid said, something like the movement from how does locale affect characterization? How is the conflict revealed through the mobility of the characters? Here I come to the research question. These are my aims, but I don't put them in the big aims because these are operational questions that I will be using. So maybe if you are a bit confused about aims, don't try to say too much in aims and keep whatever you have that is specific to the research question.
Add to this, again, your aims, I like to think of a complete whole all the time. Your aims are very much related to your title. Because, and this is, it's very important to use, titles are the one fixed part of the proposal that you cannot change. Once you commit to the titles, you cannot change it. You have to go back to the Samolia and you have to go through a line and this and that and the other. And think part of this, the logic behind it, is that the title should tell your reader exactly what you want to do. It shouldn't be, you shouldn't use it like, of course you want to use a catchy title, you want to use an interesting title, you want to follow it, but it should also be informative. It should tell what you're looking at. And out of that title, if you've thought out a good title, that should guide you into aims. As Dr. Randa was saying now, the aim could be one, but the questions could be many. And I was thinking, as you mentioned, locale. That is one aim. I want to look at the geographical context. But out of that, there will be a question related to culture. And socio-cultural aspects. There will be a question related to language. And there will be a question related to the psychology of the character, to the encounter between the colonizer and the colonized. Of course, as the case may be, depending on what exactly you're looking at. Are you looking at the character or the final product or the feeling of the colonizer vis-a-vis the colonized? It depends. But again, the aims are the broad guidelines. The questions are how you break them down into different elements and tools. In that case, you're going to have to go back and change the title. If you include the title, if you include specific novels or texts in your title, most advisors from the start suggest that you don't include specific texts. That you don't say, I'm going to look at this text. I remember this happened to me as I was working on my proposal for a PhD. And we ended up doing selected novels. Of course, selected. I wasn't very happy with selected, and I don't like selected. It's like it doesn't really tell you what you're doing. But it's a fantastic leeway because eventually, especially in what I was doing, I was looking at different adaptations, and I wanted to use a variety of different kinds of them. And things come up all the time. You may want to change something, or you may later think that you're not very comfortable with text. Keep on working. I think it's better to keep it at the yes, you want to specify what your approach is and what your purpose is. But you need not name specific novels or plays.
In the proposal and specifying the scope.
Because it's limiting upfront, and it's a hurdle. It's something you cannot change later. It's there.
Or it has to go through another practice and another practice that will change the title, which is problematic.
It's not just that they want to make our lives difficult. It's again, once you register, this goes into a database that someone somewhere in the world has. We don't know who. So the logic is that this becomes your work. This is like no one else can work with that. Only you would be repeating your work. So that's why titles cannot change. A lot of things in the proposal change, and this we were talking about this today. I wrote a proposal out of which I read your introduction today that was completely and entirely revamped. Nothing in my PhD thesis relates to the questions that I asked at the stage of writing the thing. But then, that is what I wanted to look at. When I approached my text, I realized that I asked the wrong questions. I spoke to my advisor about it, and I actually came across a completely different methodology that fit my work much better, that allowed me to do what I wanted to do in a much more profitable way. And she agreed, and we did something different from the proposal. Again, we get the structure, we get the title, we get the content, I mean the general gist of it. But the approach is completely, do not be afraid of that.
We have to fit the pieces per se, exactly, right? I mean, like you said, if I'm going to change something, it doesn't mean that I have to start writing proposal all over and then go back to it because it's kind of tedious. It's not by the title, it's not by anything else.
The title is the one binding commitment that we have. Of course, I mean, it's not, I don't encourage you to write proposals if you're not going to use later. But what I'm saying is, the proposal is subject to change. I mean, it is a learning process. It would be completely against learning if I say, but this is how I did it in the proposal and I should stick to it and discourage myself from discovering something new because, I mean, you're learning all the time and you change completely. I mean, your outlook changes from the time you're writing the proposal to 6 months into writing the thesis. You've read so much more, you've learned so much more, and you discover that maybe it's better if I structure it like this. No? I mean, certain general things say, I mean, you're not about to change your topics entirely. But, I mean, channels and paths, and you go in different directions, and you realize that this was limiting, maybe I'll change it.
There's also something about that. Yes, of course you can change things as long as you keep the format of the proposal, not because of the methodology, because it's important. So you discover that your research questions were not really the right research questions to ask, but find yourself another set of research questions and write them down for yourself, not for the methodology, because it's good to go back and look at my research questions, which are 6 or 7, and while I'm in the middle of writing the thesis, I go back, maybe I have neglected one of the questions, maybe this is important, but I have forgotten about it. So I remind myself, as long as it creates a new set of elements in place of the element that you found were unuseful to you at this stage.
No matter what you're writing, what am I doing? how am I doing it, why am I doing it. So just remember, this is where you will have to explain choices later. Of course, you're not going to go and say, I started with another text and then I changed. But that is an example. You write an research proposal in 2008, suddenly in 2010, there's a groundbreaking work that's published that was not there in your own proposal. You ignore it? Of course you'll be wrong. You have to update.
Concerning changing the titles, someone suggested before that you have your title as a bit too general, so that it's not really focused, so that if you change it later in your thesis, you don't really have to go and change it, you can go through the whole process. Is this okay, or I feel this can be affecting my proposal itself, because maybe it's not too, I don't know, informative, or not too eye-catching for the reader.
I think as Dr. has already explained, it's better to keep it open, a little bit open, like selected words, instead of saying the numbers of heaven. But don't worry about something not so specific, because your proposal makes things specific, but you're writing your proposal. If the title is big, this is not such a big drawback. Unless, for example, you pretend something that you're not going to do. Like, for instance, in the work of Sheen, at least saying the novels of Sheen, because he's written plays and he's written poetry and he's written memoirs and so on. So, don't make it look like you are giving yourself more credit or that you are doing this and that. But, I would say keeping it a bit open is better than rejecting yourself than having to change. Which, by the way, is not a big deal. Even if you have specified your topic and you said this word and that word, and you want to change later on, it takes some time, but it's not for the end of the work. It has to go through the official process, but it works.
I do think, yes, you want to keep a little bit of freedom in the title. You also don't want a very general title that does not specify what you're doing. I mean, you cannot have a title like a critical analysis of Shakespeare's works. This doesn't tell anyone anything in the world, and you should veer away from it completely all the time. Now, about changing titles, it is difficult, but it's not impossible. It just has to be justified, it's bureaucratic, but it's done. Also remember there are ways in the thesis to do things. Yes, you may stick to your title that specifies certain specific novels, but include something and justify it in the thesis itself, maybe afterwards, maybe in a chapter, just include, say, refer to it without necessarily making it more focused. And this way you don't have to change the title. If you really need to change the title, you feel that you mentioned something you're not using, it can be done. I mean, it's not very, very simple, but it's not impossible.
Other questions? Okay, we can move on. Sure, because we can move on, and I think the next step might also evoke a lot of questions. So keep your questions as we go on, and then we can discuss them as they come up. So now what we have is we have two proposal topics. This is the first one, and then the second.
Okay, now let me explain the setup. What we're doing here is we've chosen 4 samples, 2 from an existing proposal, mine, and 2 that we just invented. Now, the first one will be an introduction. The second one we will not tell you what it is, and you will decide. And then, the rest of them we won't tell you what it is. Basically, what you're supposed to do is read it, assimilate the content, and think of the category that this is supposed to fit in. Now, because of everything that we've been saying, I want you to remember that we don't quite completely accept, we don't totally crush. So, this could be, may fit here, or it may be adjusted. So keep this in mind too, that it could fit in the category that we're discussing, but it may need some adjustments. Now, the first example we're doing, generally each of these will be 15 minutes, give you like 5 minutes to read, a couple more minutes to write down your reaction, and then we'll discuss it. Now, the first example is the introduction of a proposal with this title, From Text to Image, a literary approach to film adaptations of selected novels. Now, your person receiving this proposal, looking at this introduction, remember what we said we wanted to see in an introduction. We wanted to, we wanted it general, we wanted it catchy, we wanted it interesting. Does it make you want to read or not? Is there an anecdote? Again, this is already accepted. Think about, can it be improved? Could it have been written differently? If you were writing